it's reported that the so-called tariff wars have now spread from East Africa to West Africa, Nigeria. How intense is the rivalry?
Well, not as intense as we're currently seeing it in East Africa. Indeed, a lot of what we've seen have been creative tariff management to the extent that ERMs, that is effective rate per minute, hasn't really been eroded as much as people will expect.
All right, talk to us about the environment right now. Airtel has reportedly reduced rates to 9 naira per minute, and yet the industry average is 35 naira to 42 naira per minute. Is that what's going on?
That is not exactly correct. That is a perception that Airtel would like to create in the market, in the minds of customers. In reality, Airtel has actually increased rates because if you take a look at where they were before the current price plan that they have, it was pegged at 30 naira per minute for the default price plan. And what they have done is actually to increase that to 36 naira per minute for the first minute before they start introducing a regressive price plan. And at the end of the day, if you take a look at how many people make calls beyond 1 minute, you will discover that 70% of call durations are within 1 minute. So in reality, they've increased pressure rather than reduced.
Okay, let's just talk about how the game is changing with growing competition and this very aggressive strategy by Airtel across major markets in Africa. Many are very concerned about their so-called low tariff, high volume strategy.
Yes, that is precisely what they want people to believe, that they are saviors of the consumer, if you permit the expression, that they're here to actually slash tariffs, and they've done so in markets where, for instance, they have nothing to lose. Their market share in East Africa is very low compared to that of Safaricom. So what they think they're trying to do there is actually destroy the market there for the big players. Here in Nigeria, they are number 2 to MTN Nigeria. They have a big stake here to protect, and they've been creative in regards to the way they have chosen to manage their tariff planning and strategies.
Okay, well, they're not here to defend themselves, so let's focus on your approach to this growing, very aggressive competition by a new entrant into the market, Airtel. The experts are saying that, you know, with reduced tariffs, obviously the money is no longer in voice, it's probably in data services. What's MTN Nigeria's approach?
Well, if we take a look at the voice data market in Nigeria, it's still very much strongly in favor of voice. 90% of the revenue still come from voice, with about 10% coming from data. Over the next 5 years, voice will still be dominant, and the projection is that voice will still be responsible for as much as 75% of total revenues from this sector. So as far as we are concerned, our strength in voice will be reinforced alongside investments in data, so that we'll grow perhaps ahead of what the market indications are saying.
It's also reported that within the data space, the competition has begun because for some operator, internet download prices have been slashed almost 50%, coming in somewhere in the region of 3,000 naira. Can you just tell us how you're going to approach this environment under these circumstances? Because also a caveat is that we've also seen regulators in other African countries supporting the move to reduce prices because for them, it's about the consumer first.
Yeah, the greatest opportunity for revenue generation in data today is expansion of opportunity access into mobile broadband. And with the increase in bandwidth occasioned by the introduction of main one cable, and we're looking towards WAX, the MTN-inspired WAX undersea cable that will also be landing in Lagos in June, we believe that the opportunity for actually further reduction exists. We actually were the very first to reduce to 3,000 because our policy is actually to democratize access to data because internet penetration in Nigeria at the moment is currently less than 10%. And so we see huge opportunities there for growth if it's affordable. And so that is precisely what we are pursuing. Affordability in data. And of course, we believe that if we're championing it with the kind of quality that people expect, we will indeed be at the forefront of gathering the benefits that will accrue.
You use a word that's interesting here, and that's quality. And obviously, if we see more subscribers on the network, be it for internet downloads or for voice calls, it's obviously going to put pressure on the network. And the challenge now is to ensure that there is consistent flow, that there's sufficient broadband, that there's good network quality, no more dropped calls in Nigeria, for instance. Can your network handle it?
Yes, MTN as an organization, globally, is a very progressive organization. Our belief really is to enrich the lives of our customers. That is what our commitment is. And we see the fundamental meaning of enrichment of life within the telecom space as delivering quality service to our customers. So you'll see constant investment in rolling out in expansion of coverage and in enhancing capacity in areas where we are currently available, so that at the end of the day, customer experience will be at its peak. MTN currently ranks above other competitors in this regard. We were rated the best GSM operator last year by NCC and some other independent assessors and evaluators of service. Yes, we still have some distance to go, but our investment policy is geared towards ensuring that we fill the necessary gaps.
Okay, I'm going to bring in our guest host, Andrew, here to get his perspective on what you've just said. As we refer to the situation in Kenya, that seems to be getting really angst, as it were. I mean, fears of an industry being decimated. Now, I don't know whether that's alarmist or whether it's really real, but the argument is once you've reduced tariffs to somewhere in the region of 1 shilling, it doesn't reflect the operating cost. And if it doesn't reflect the operating cost, it means revenues are lost. It means no value to the shareholder. And so as a result, no more people would want to invest in telecoms in the industry.
Sure, and I think as you quite correctly said, is the impact is as your volume goes up, you need more infrastructure, your returns aren't there, your investors aren't going to come to the party, and then suddenly you're in crisis. But if you look at Bharti in the Nigerian context, at a $9 billion acquisition, it's the second biggest Indian foreign acquisition in their history. It's highly unlikely that they're going to decimate their own market, and I think it is slightly different. They came in over there, they bought into something that was quite substantial. They have a lot to defend, so it's highly unlikely that they're actually going to shoot themselves in the foot, although it's very interesting. And I suppose maybe the irony is Bharti was the suitor a while ago of MTN, and now it looks like they really are at loggerheads and they've got their work cut out in Nigeria.
How do you make yourself relevant in an environment where a new entrant comes in so aggressively and with so many innovative products?
Well, I think it's a question of having to reinvent oneself. And, you know, when you look at Nigeria, it's the most populous cell phone market in Africa. You look at, I think it's 80 million subscribers or active cell phone users. It's inevitable that you're going to have a move towards a volume-orientated game. And I suppose it's just that you have to reinvent yourself before the competition does it for you.
Okay, Mr. Akingbade, how much more growth is possible in Nigeria? You talk about the possibilities within the internet and data space, but within the voice space, I know that the regulator has been very keen to see more backbone infrastructure being set up in the rural areas, because that seems to be where Nigerians are out of the game. But once that market is penetrated, what more can be done?
Well, at the moment, the penetration of even voice service into the population is less than 50%. Currently stands at 48.6%. And going forward, we believe that there's still a huge room for us to grow our voice business. So that's number one. And when we turn to data, 10% penetration or less is also another opportunity for huge growth if we have all the infrastructure that is necessary to facilitate access to the internet here in Nigeria. We talked about rural telephony. MTN Nigeria is actually leading the pack in that initiative. And before long, we're going to launch a rural telephony service to ensure that we are the very first to start tapping the opportunities that lie at the bottom of the pyramid.
And then finally, I mean, MTN has introduced more so-called value-added propositions, or products rather, such as Funlink, SmartLink, ProLink. I mean, all of these to try to create more airtime at an affordable rate to keep your subscribers attracted to you. Do you think you're going to manage?
Yes, the important point for us is when we say we're enriching the lives of our customers, we also want to do so in ways that every customer segment will find relevant and appropriate for their needs. And therefore, what you have just mentioned are propositions that are targeted at specific customer segments, tailored to meet their established needs and desires. Our experience is that it's been working for us. We started this in 2006, in September 2006, pioneering the whole idea of segmented value propositions in this market. And it's worked very much for us. And we have no reason to believe that going forward, we'll have any different experience.